I am the Board of Equalization Administrator, and one of the things that I have advocated for, you probably heard about it if you own property. There was a time when I first came into the office, it was just kind of devastating to me when I would walk in the record room and see people in there, and they would be crying because they didn't own their property anymore. So you could walk in the record room, pull up somebody else's deed, put your name on it, and take their house. And believe me, that was actually happening, and it blew my mind. And I kept talking about it, and I said, they're not listening, they don't know. And finally, when the TV stations put me on, Clerk started listening. And then they started doing things. They created fans, and some of you are probably familiar with that, and that would allow you to sign up to be notified if somebody was trying to take your property. Well, what it didn't do, it didn't stop them. It just let you know they were taking it. So we kept working, and we worked on Bill 1292, and as of January 1, they can't do that anymore. So we are very excited about that. You have to do it online. You have to show your ID. You have to show your fingerprint. And unless you have an attorney or somebody who's with an organization, they have to do those things. So you can also come to our office and pull up your deeds that way through our portals. But otherwise, you can do it online. And I am very excited about that. And that's kind of the big role I'm playing in this meeting, just to inform you all that now we have overcome. So we're going to start. Can y'all pull your chairs up here? Get a chair and come up here. The people that are on the form. Mr. Walker, our new real estate supervisor, and we're excited about her. And Kim, I don't know what you're, she works hard. She's criminal.
She's here as a citizen.
Yeah, I know she's here as a citizen, but she is one of the criminal clerks. Yes. So, and we see our Commissioner Raxton coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the panel. Oh! And there's the Commissioner! Our chairman! Changing the agenda, but go ahead.
My name is Greg Baker, and I'm the Tax Commissioner of Douglas County. I'm here to take all questions. Ms. Stembridge called me today. She said, "You're going to be there today, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, because you asked me to." She didn't ask me, she demanded me. She was saying, "You got to be there." But we interact and we do a lot of things together, support each other very well. So it's a very good relationship. There's 4 constitutional officers, the sheriff, the Superior Court clerk, probate judge, and myself, and we meet every month and go over things for the county and what we can improve on every month. That's one good thing that we do, that we try to improve everything for you. One thing I did is last year, I don't know if you saw my billboards. If you didn't, I had them all over the county. And it was telling you about your homestead exemptions. You could come in, we would get your homestead exemptions done for you. We had about 5,000 people come in, and they got exemptions that they didn't even know they were entitled to. We also, matter of fact, the Assessor's Office got mad because they had the process on it. But then they gave it back to me because they said, "You did that, you take it back." So, but you can come in there's probably exemptions that you don't even know you're entitled to. The biggest one is the school board exemption. When you're 62, you can get rid of those school board taxes. A lot of people do know about that. So I advise you to come in and get your exemptions looked at and make sure you got them all, because there's another exemption. That's not the only exemption you got. There's another one. Once you're 65, there's another exemption that you can get, as long as you don't make over $96,000. So that's an added bonus that you can get that exemption and reduce your taxes again. So if you don't have that one, please stop by the office and try to get that one also. Now, there's an exception to the rule this year. You know, we had the House Bill 581. Usually you can apply for those exemptions up until April 1st. After April 1st, you won't get those deductions until the following year. Well, they extended that. You have until July 14th that you can come in and apply. You give them 45 days, right?
45 days from the date of the notice.
45 days from the date of the assessment notice that you can come in and get that exemption this year. Okay, so you gotta be there by July 14th. After July 14th, I can't help you. Because, you know, one thing we gotta do is we gotta follow all the laws. So once July 14th, we can't help you. If you get there on the 14th, we can help you. So if you wanna look at that, and you stop by the office, we'll be happy to help you. So you're entitled to every exemption you can get, and I suggest you look at it, come in and review it. And go ahead.
I turned 62 in March. Do I have to be 62 in January? Do I have to wait for the next year to get it, or am I entitled to it now?
You're entitled to it now.
No, sir.
I am entitled to it now.
On the 45 days,
January 1st.
you got disapproved a bunch of them.
You did.
Well, let me put it this way. You come into my office.
January 1st, after March.
Okay. You come into my office.
So 62 on January 1st.
Come into my office. Yes, sir.
How do you determine the gross income for that year? Let's say, for instance, I win a big prize that year, and, you know, I made over $96,000. And I come in for my exemption, but I normally make $56,000. How do you do that one?
What did you tell the IRS?
Oh, tax.
I'm gonna follow your lead. Or into next year, I'm gonna follow your lead. No. I gotta look at what you gave them. In other words, somebody's gonna look at what you gave them eventually. So, if you do, wait till next year. Okay.
So these exemptions, you have to apply, they don't like automatically at the age.
No, you gotta come in and apply.
Is
You
there
gotta
any
fill out
other-
the paperwork, answer all the questions, the whole thing.
Are there any other after 65?
I don't think so. That gives you the best exemption, besides the veterans exemption, that gives you the best exemption you can get. I think the veterans is one of the best one you can get.
It is.
So if you're a veteran, if you're a
Disabled, but
disabled veteran and 100% disabled, that's the best one you can get. But if you're a veteran,
That's just disabled veteran, right?
yes,
But it has to be 100%.
100% disabled.
Yeah, that'd be
And you gotta have the proof with the piece of paper. If you got that, that's the best exemption you can get.
So for this current taxable year, I did as your billboard has told me to, but for my neighbors that did not file by April, we all just got our little tax bill, our lovely notice. Are they,
That's not the deal.
the notice, this is the thing right here. Are they still eligible, because I'm just trying to get clarification, by July 14th?
Yes.
Are they still eligible to come in and apply for that homestead for this current assessment to be shown on the final tax bill, is that correct?
Yes.
Come in our office and
Oh,
look.
I already did my homework, but I'm here for the community.
But they can.
Okay.
Till the 14th.
Okay.
That's why I say, have them come in our office. They got till the 14th.
Okay.
They must be there by July 14th. And I tell people, come in right away, because a lot of people procrastinate.
Oh, well.
And they'll miss that deadline.
Laura Wood will be in your office, tomorrow to help you.
Any other questions?
So do you need to make an appointment to come in?
Got what?
Do I need to make an appointment to come in?
No, just come on. We can take everybody come through the door. We're gonna get you in and out as fast as possible. Yeah, you can look at our websites too.
Can do it online.
Yeah, and you can do it online too. Some things you need proof of, you just bring those in if you need them, and we'll take care of them. Thank that you guys.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you have to apply for the homestead exemption every year? Or is it
No.
something that you apply and it's already applied?
Once you apply, you're done.
Okay.
Unless something changes.
Okay.
And you change, or if you change something on your title.
If you just purchased a home,
I didn't hear you say that again?
if you just purchased a home within the last 2 months, when would you file homestead?
If you just bought it in the last 2 months,
Yes.
you're gonna get excess for whatever you bought your home for.
She applied.
You can apply,
But not this year.
but not, you won't get it this year, but you can.
Right.
Somebody else have it.
Is there a list of items that you need to bring in when you come into the office for the exemption?
Yes.
Yes, it says it on our website too. If you guys go to our website, it'll tell you exactly everything. Before you come in, I suggest you go to my website. It'll tell you everything you need to bring in to prove that you're a homeowner. It may be your driver's license, it may be water bill, something to prove that you live there or something, but it'll tell you everything, exactly what you need.
Yeah, what's the
What's your
website?
website?
I'm messing with you. Douglas County,
No?
DouglasTax.org.
DouglasTax.org.
Yes.
Last year, when I turned 67, I applied for the extra exemption, but when I got the paperwork back and everything, it didn't show any difference as any additional reduced in taxes. So I'm seeing you find out now at 68, hopefully I can get it. All right, maybe I need to reapply because I didn't see any difference.
Stop by and let us look at it. If you got time, stop by.
Absolutely.
We will definitely look at it. We got some good people that'll look at, make sure you got everything you deserve and
And knowing
explain.
how to fill the form out.
Right, and it'll explain to you, if you're not gonna get something, we'll explain to you why you're not getting it. But if you're entitled to it, we'll find it for you.
All right,
Got
thank
a question? No, sir. Okay, somebody back there.
I have a question. I bought my house in 2024 in April, and they told me to file the homestead exemption straight away, so I did that in October of last year, and then I received a letter asking me if I wanted to appeal. So I'm not sure if that's applicable to me because I've only been in my home a year this April.
Asking you if you wanted to what?
I'm asking, they sent a letter to my home asking me if I wanted to appeal, and I'm not sure if I can appeal anything because I've just been in my home a year this April.
Well,
I'll handle that one.
yeah, he'll handle that one.
Okay, thank you.
That's more of an accessory thing for you. Any other questions there? Yes, ma'am.
So when we received the assessment letter this year, it only had 2 numbers at the bottom. It didn't give you a total. So do we add those 2 numbers together and that's the assessment? I can hear.
They do that better.
Okay. So there was no total, so what do we do with that?
He's gonna answer when he comes up.
All right.
I thought I read recently that there was talk about getting rid of the school tax exemption once you turn 62. Can you talk
When
about
you get 65, but until then, you're gonna pay them school tax.
or whatever the date is, the school tax at 62 or 65, but I read that they were talking about getting rid of that. Is that?
There were different counties that could opt in. The way the media presented it, it was that there were different counties that could opt in and not allow the school tax exemption for their county. And it was reported that Douglas County was participating in this.
Correct.
That's not true.
Well, I'm just letting you know what the media said.
Yeah,
So we're trying to get,
that's one of those myths.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna let him explain that. That's one of those myths that got out in the media. That's not true. If you got rid of all your school board taxes, what are you gonna do with your kids? You don't have any schools, because that's where they get, school board gets most of the money. I mean, the county gets second, but the school board gets most of the money. When we write checks, it goes school board, county, cities, and so on. So they get most of your money. So I can tell you, they're never gonna get rid of that school board tax unless your county does like Douglas County. Once you're 65, they get rid of it. All counties do something different. 62, I'm sorry.
Yes, 60.
All counties do something different. Some people have 40%, 50%, 70%. You're lucky to live in Douglas County because they do 100%. Most of those counties do not do 100% getting rid of your school board tax. Douglas County is, I think it's only 3 or 4 that really do 100% of getting rid of your school board tax. So you're really lucky in Douglas County that they have that in place, that you get rid of that tax. So, any other questions for me?
Besides the mileage rate. The mileage rate, how is that?
Millage rate?
Yeah.
Millage rate is decided by the Board of Commissioners, and I don't let them do that, because they look at their budget, and they decide what they have to spend for that year, which is a tremendous job. And I'm gonna just tell you, don't take it lightly, because they have a tremendous job to do, because they got to look at payroll, insurance, roads. I mean, you could ride around with potholes if you didn't want to pay the taxes. So there's a lot of expenses that go into that budget that they have to look at, and that's how they create their millage rate. Not that they don't want to reduce taxes, but they just like you and me. I always want to reduce taxes. I pay the same rate you pay. I can't get nothing out of doing anything. If I do, it'll be in the newspaper. Paying cheaper than I am. But when they look at that millage rate, they are looking out for you too. So I know they get beat up a lot. I even beat them up because they mess with mine too. But they have a tremendous job of trying to budget and get that budget to where they need to get it to and keep your rate down. But you got 2 factors on that, the millage rate and your assessed value. And a lot of people don't understand that assessed value, but if your neighbor sells his house for $700,000 and you got 5 people selling houses for $700,000, guess what? Your house is worth $700,000. You sell your house is worth $700,000. And what they have to do is value your house at $700,000, because when you sell it, that's what it's valued. So that's the assessed value of your property. So they have a hard job too, because they have to try to do that for the whole county. There's no way that we have enough people to do that, so you have to do what's called a mass appraisal, and I'm going to let them talk about that. But that's a hard job too. So you're looking at 2 people that have a hard job, and all of us are trying to keep your taxes down as low as we can. That's the honest to God truth. But there's no way that we can just get where you want us to be most of the time, because they have to look at everything. Me, I don't have to raise your taxes, all I do is collect. They give me a number and say, this is what you owe. I send your bill out, and y'all keep going, you raised my taxes. I go, I can't raise taxes. It's against the law for me to raise taxes. I'd be happy to take your money. That's all I can do. So, yes, sir.
Well, question, have they thought about doing a SPOS to offset some of the property?
You denied. You guys denied it. And I think it was a confusion, because this is what really happened. You know, they had 581 where you opt in and opt out. They had the educational spot. Then they had another spot. You did the educational spot. SPOS is the best thing you guys can vote yes for. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Because that takes the burden off the tax people. All I ask for is a penny. When you go to the store and buy something, and all the people that come into Douglas County, they go to the mall and everything, they pay that extra penny, that takes the burden off of you, building stuff and all that good stuff. So that's one of the best, really. And I didn't understand the splash either. I thought, yeah, dog, they raising my taxes. But really, that penny helps them build a whole bunch of things that senior citizen centers, these guys can talk about that. That's how that got built. It didn't come from your taxes. It got built from that penny. That penny's a great thing for you to do.
Spread out everybody, everybody pays, anybody.
Everybody pays it, everybody that comes in from out of town pays.
Fair.
Yeah.
Everybody that goes to the mall.
And we have a current splash from 2022.
Yeah. So hopefully you vote for that, because that's what, everybody pays that and come through Douglas County, buy gas, buy this, that, they pay that penny. That penny takes the burden off the taxpayer.
Absolutely.
So I would recommend you vote yes for that.
When does that come up?
He said 2022, I'm gonna let them.
No, that's the current one, that's the active one. But we're contemplating putting another one on. We have to wait 2 years because one in 2024 that failed for the T-Splash. So we're contemplating to put it back on in 2026. So we're in those discussions.
Yes.
What does the acronyms block stand for?
You want to say?
We got all the seats.
Yeah, I don't know what it means.
I don't know what it means.
Special purpose local option sales.
Special local option sales tax.
Right. And the T
Special options.
Special local.
Option sales.
sales tax. Special, yeah.
And the T
Okay, no other questions for me? I'm sorry, one last one. Go ahead.
Are there any exemptions for homeowners who are under 62 besides the S1?
Disability.
No,
No?
you're stuck for a while.
It's great to be seen.
Yes, ma'am.
Going back to the splash, what, can you tell me what those conditions are again?
Special local option sales tax.
Option sales tax. And the E in front of it means education, and T in front of it means transportation.
Say that again?
So if there's an E, when you see an E splash, that's an education splash. If it's a T in front of it, it's a transportation splash. So in 2024, the E splash, which was the education splash, was approved, but the T splash was defeated.
And the T process, they get the money.
They're gonna answer
Well,
that.
in addition to Chapel and other roads.
I just want to know how many pennies do we have to, if we can, these new areas that are building up to get sidewalks put in place for the people to be able to walk. Please speak to about, about that, anything when you get those things.
No sidewalks.
I'll be here.
You speak to one of those, they'll be around for a little bit. So speak to one of those.
Absolutely. That's your county commissioner.
All right, thank you. And like I say, come to my office. We'll be happy to help you, and we will find every exemption that we can use. Guaranteed.
All right.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right?
Y'all get in the way.
Okay, next we're gonna have our expert, had to say. Eugene Martin.
It's all right. Good evening, everybody. All right, I'm going to talk to you about your property assessment. And people had questions earlier about House Bill 581 and House Bill 92 that you probably already had questions about, but they both will. So I'm going to discuss those things first, and then we'll get into some other things as well. So I know some people have some questions about the locking in, knocking out, and all of that stuff. It was a mess, but back in November, we all voted, and 62% of the state voted to create a floating homestead for the state. And that floating homestead added a whole lot of other things into it. There were like 8, 9 different things in that bill that you didn't see when you voted. So understand that. So be careful what you vote for if you don't know what you're looking for. I hate to say it that way, that's just how I feel as a voter. Anyway, one of the things that changed was your assessment notice, which is why someone asked about you see partially estimated tax and partially not. That was in that bill. So in that bill, you voted to change the notice of assessment to take the tax bill off the notice of assessment.
That's looking good.
To me, it's good because you're not appealing your taxes. You cannot appeal your taxes. You can only appeal your value. So, to be honest, you should look at the value of your properties. And if you believe the value of your property is not correct, then you should file an appeal or at least look into it. That being said, if you take the estimated tax off, then you focus more on the value. That being said also, when you look at the value, you have to understand, we're looking at the fair market value as January 1st. And for tax purposes, everything is based on January 1st. It doesn't matter what you're looking at, if it's the homestead, the valuation, an appeal, the sales that we use, all that is our valuation state is January 1st. And you can't value using future. You appeal and you get your notice in the future because we do 56,000 properties in every year. So just realize it takes time to get all that stuff done. So we do 56,000 appraisals at the same time we do one. And we don't have a big office. We have an office of about 20 people. It is. Guess what? We get it done. Every year we get it done and we try to be as accurate as possible. So then we do mass appraisal as Mr. Baker said, which is true. And the mass appraisal, it uses statistics. And using statistics, sometimes things can be skewed. But we have the DOR, which is Georgia Department of Revenue, actually tells us how far we can skew, in other words. So we have to try to get our values within 10% up or down, either high or low, from 100%. So we can be as high as 110%, as low as 90. As far as our sales ratio, which is what we use to actually create and produce the values of each property. And we try to take all the property, we don't take a lump sum of properties and put them together and try to say this is it. What we do is we break the property down by neighborhood and like. So if you have a brand new house, we're not going to value a brand new house for a house built 1945 or 1960. We're going to try to keep the 1945 houses similar, and those houses also be similar in build, quality, age, lot size. So we're not going to value a 5-acre property with a half-acre property. Understand that too. So we take a lot of time to make sure what we do is accurate. I promise you guys that. You're always not going to like what your value is, but realize this, if your value is going down, in my mind, it's going the wrong way. Because that's equity that you lost. Realize that. And we're looking at fair market value, and fair market value is basically the same thing that your property should sell for on January 1st if you would have put it on the open market. So that's the type of value that we're looking for. That's the type of value that we strive for. And the reason for the skewness is because we're trying to do this every year on, as I said, 56,000 properties. So, another thing in House Bill 581 was the option that everybody was talking about. Douglas County itself opted out of that. The school board opted out of that. Douglasville opted out of that. Villarica and Oxdale stayed in. So what that did was, the only thing it did, the only thing 581 was doing was creating a floating homestead. That's it. That was the main thing about the opting in and opting out. That floating homestead basically, it didn't take away your school taxes, and it didn't say you're not going to always pay school taxes. It was basically setting a base value, just like your current county, the county already does. So in Douglas County, we already have a float base, and that float base is better than what the state could even come up with. So That's the reason the county actually opted out. Because what the county already had was way superior to what the state was trying to keep. And I just mean way superior.
That was,
Because the state's version is based on a consumer price index, and no one knows what that consumer price index is as of yet. So, realize that too. As far as your assessment is concerned, and appealing your assessment, if you, as I said before, if you believe your value is not correct, we ask you to come into our office. You can file online as well. Our website is the Douglas County site, and you can just scroll down to the bottom and find the appraisal department. But we welcome you that we have comparables on our website. So if you want to know what sales are in your neighborhood, and if you're just curious, just go to our website, which is douglascountyga.gov, and scroll to the bottom. You'll see the word appraisal. And then you'll look for a real property search, real property search, put your address in, and you can actually look for comparables to your property on our website. And that'll give you all the sales that have happened in Douglas County in the past year.
did that last year.
See, and it did work, or you
It
didn't?
did not work.
It didn't work. She
The
won't
doors down from the same exact house, built right next door, and there was significant difference.
Didn't sell?
No, they didn't sell. No one was selling.
Then that's not sale. But I'm talking about the sales.
Oh, okay.
So that's a little bit different. House could be different. I don't know what the difference is when one house is the other, but if something is assessment wise,
Yeah.
give me that address and I'll look at it before I leave. Yes, ma'am.
Why is my total taxes not showing on my assessment notice, sir?
Your total tax?
Yeah. Last year we had it on.
House for 581 took that on. When we voted to say, we want homestead, this homestead business, when we go down the line, that was part of the thing that it took away when we estimated tax. So they did another house bill, which is 92, that went into effect retroactively in January 1st, and that gave an option to the jurisdictions to, if they give an estimated rollback rate, then they won't show a tax bill. If they chose not to give an estimated rollback rate, it will show an estimated tax. But realize that estimated tax is based on last year's numbers, not this year's numbers, because there is no number for this year. There's no millage rate set for this year. So what we end up using is last year's millage rate, which is the best available information. So it gets you close, but it'll never be exact. Now, House Bill 581 also took away some things that will not be on there. So to be honest, even if everybody decided they were not going to give an estimated rollback rate, you still will not get a true estimated tax bill. Because any bonds that exist, any street lights that come on your bill, any extras of any kind will not be on there. Operation for the county, school board, or city will show up. It's not, I'm not gonna say it's good or bad. Personally, I'm gonna say this. You're not appealing your taxes. So as far as the notice of assessment, that really shouldn't matter. Because you should state on the middle of the page, the bottom of the page, and a lot of people look at, and that's not really what that piece of paper is meant for. Yes, sir.
Eugene, first of all, I want to thank you for pointing me in the right direction and telling me the difference between a blueprint and a sketch.
Oh yeah, I did it.
Thank you.
You very well. We try to help.
I got a question. I was under the impression that the assessment is based on the condition of the surrounding environment for the property. For instance, if I've got people living in the woods behind me, 60 feet from a school, and I've got people dealing drugs in the same places and stuff like that, I was under the impression that that would bring down my property value. And what I'm hearing from you is that you take an assessment of all the properties around and you figure out this magic number and that's what you come up with. But does that portray how much my house go up? The surrounding area is messed up, people park on the street, the mailman can't get through, trash man can't get through, and this kind of thing. And
Actually, it does. I'm gonna tell you why. Because the thing is, if people in your neighborhood, with all this stuff is going on selling, no one's gonna pay top dollar, I guess you could say, for that house, if all that's going on. So, in the sales in that neighborhood will reflect in all that activity that you're talking about. So we actually do take that into consideration because it's already built into the sales.
so, if that's the case, then how do I find out what the median selling price is for my area so that I can make a good assessment of how much my house will cost?
Look at the houses that sold in your neighborhood. If you don't have a way to actually do it, you can actually take our website and look at the sales that happen in your neighborhood. Yes, sir.
Can you walk through what you need for an appeal and how, to go about it?
I'm gonna give you the simple and the hard. That work for you. You can take a napkin and write, "I wish to appeal," and put your address inside. That's the simple. We rather do not do that, but you can.
I got a question.
Hold on, sir.
When you're done with him, I wanted to hear this.
However, the most effective way, we have an appeal form on our website, or you can come to our office, and that appeal form lists everything that we would need from you. When you file an appeal, we do suggest that you either, if you file online, we kind of force you to give us comparables. So you have to look for something that shows us why you believe the value should be lower or higher or whatever you believe it is. And you can file an appeal if you think the value is too low too. Yes, you can do that. But if not, you can look at sales, you can get a real estate agent to give you a market analysis, you can have an appraisal done. Anything that that you have that you believe is in your benefit, you can give us a look at it. But we have an appeal form, and the form is fairly simple. It's one page. It's just basic information about you, the property itself, like what you believe the value should be. There's a billing question on there that people don't know about. There's a billing question you see the form. And will ask you why you believe the property is where it is. So you get a description of what your issues are. Because we don't go inside your house. So if it's something inside your house we don't know about, you have to tell us, and you have to let us in. I cannot go in your house without you letting me in. Yes.
That was my question. Be careful with what you ask for when you do this appeal.
Yeah, you might mess yourself up.
Because you may mess yourself up. This is my question. I have a house. I redone my basement. This is gorgeous. Market value is at $140,000. But I done redone my bathroom, basement, the whole thing. You only appraised it at $140,000. Now, I do an appeal. You're coming out.
Yes, sir.
And you don't want to come in, and if you see my basement, what happens?
Goes up.
I can correct it. It's because you actually following the county.
Did my value go up?
Yes, it will.
Be careful what you do. That's
And
all.
I'm coming to that second. I'm gonna give you guys a real life example. I used to work with the cab county. When I worked with the cab county, the lady came in and was complaining about her month's value. She said the value is too high. I looked at the value, I said, it's only $60,000. Why, how is it too high? And the house is in the Lakewood area. We had actually mistakenly taken the house off the rolls. The value should have been $220,000. Real life example. So he's right. However, your neighbor's gonna tell on you anyway, so you might as well tell them. And I would be
Yeah, so I'm just a little confused. Y'all are actually kind of scaring me. I'm a first-time home buyer, so a lot of the language that you guys are using, I'm having to like Google because I really don't know what it is that y'all are talking about.
Okay.
But you keep mentioning comparables, like when we file an appeal. Are you talking about looking for houses in the neighborhood off Zillow and stuff like that and printing it off and attaching it to the appeal to show that there's like a price difference as far as what my house is and my neighbors are?
You can do that.
And then second, if I file an appeal, are you guys coming to my house, inside my house?
If you let us in.
You do not have to lift the door.
Do not answer the door.
However, if you do not answer the door, I can't see what you say the issues are. If you say your issues inside your house and you want your children, I can't change it.
Yeah.
So it depends.
Yeah, if I don't have issues, like I'm saying, because like, I don't know that any.
Comparable sales, you don't have to come in.
Okay.
You don't always need to come in. But if you tell us you have holes in your floor, the ceilings are falling down,
Oh, no.
and you tell me I can't come in, what can I do?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
In the back first, then.
Okay, so I just wanted clarity, because I'm also a first-time home buyer. So if you didn't have the house before January 1st, you won't get the assessment this year. It'll come next year, right?
Well, it won't be sent to you, no.
Okay.
However, you do have the right to file an appeal if you do that.
Okay, and then,
As a new homeowner, you do get the right to file an appeal if your name is legally on the deed, you have to.
okay, and then when, I guess, does it go into effect? Like, say your taxes are higher, when does that go into effect where you like have to pay the extra, or when it doesn't apply to like the mortgage? Like, is that the?
That's what you mean?
Yeah, like when does? Okay.
Not us. Yes, ma'am.
So, my question is, I live in a neighborhood where there are smaller homes in the front, and then as you go towards the back of the neighborhood, the houses get bigger, and they're more expensive in the back. So how, do you guys just assess the neighborhood in itself, or how would you do that?
We actually break down the smaller houses from the larger houses. They're two separate neighborhoods.
Okay.
We try to appraise like with like. So to appraise like with like, the smaller houses are different than those bigger houses, then we're not gonna put them, you don't put them together, we break them apart.
Because, I mean, from the outside, some of them look the same, but, you know, some don't have a basement, some do,
We
some...
make adjustments to basements and those sorts of things. That's fair and normal. So if we can't separate them for some reason or another, we make adjustments for that. So a house with a basement is not to be made the same as a house without a basement. A house with a finished basement is not to be made the same as a house with unfinished basement. So we make adjustments for those things. Yes, ma'am.
So our community was just built, and it's a cookie cutter community. So if you got a single car garage, her inside and outside looks just the same as this gentleman's single car garage. My 2-car garage, cookie cutter to the next 2-car garage my house is attached to. But in our community, we had thousands of dollars of difference. You know, she has an end unit while he has a middle unit 3 doors down, and his was valued thousands of dollars higher than hers. And that went throughout the whole community. And thousands of dollars might seem insignificant, but in turn, you're talking about hundreds of dollars in taxes. And so for our community to still actively be being built, and for us to see thousands of dollars of the difference between homes that are the exact same outside and in, was very concerning for our entire community. Because we had, you know, in my stance, it was due to Douglas County Water not installing and having the proper equipment to put in the water meters that delayed my signing to the next year. So I couldn't even qualify for homestead last year because Douglas County didn't have the proper equipment to install it on time. So that in turn meant I didn't qualify. Every person in our neighborhood was hit over the head with an extra $3,000. That was more than what was expected. And so for the young lady that is a new home buyer, when we get these, because I didn't own the house on the first, so I didn't get this, right? I didn't get the assessment of what my new taxes were. But when the final bill was brought out, and my mortgage company had it, you know, I have issues with the mortgage company having had it and not hitting me over the head until March with the new bills. But if you don't communicate with your mortgage company about this new bill, you're going to delay when you have to start paying and changing your escrow. And I think that there needs to be some type of education similar to this style format for new home buyers, because that is where new home buyers get caught up, because they don't understand that their mortgage is not going up. It's their tax evaluation where we get hit over the head with $3,000, and then this year I'm back down. So we are just confused on our whole end of the drastic difference between neighbor to neighbor.
I'd have to look at your neighborhood to see what you're talking about exactly.
I got it all.
But, not right now. I'll look at it, I promise. But to answer your question about the mortgage thing and the escrows and whatnot, typically when it's new construction especially, which is what you're talking about, they don't actually start your escrows off where they should be. They typically don't use the sale price. They usually use the land value price because that's what it was the previous year. So what ends up happening is and they use that to try to get you qualified in the house. That's between you and your mortgage broker when you actually did all that stuff. That has nothing to do with the county.
Well, yeah.
Because the county can't tell them what the value is going to be when you're closing, because we don't know the value yet. Because you're closing, you're setting the values for the neighborhoods. And I can say this, usually, if you bought maybe in January and somebody else bought in December, the prices may have changed. So if the prices change between one part of the year and the other part of the year, that could cause an increase in the valuation at the end of the year, because we tend to trend more toward the end of the year because we're looking at a valuation of January 1st. So if you're looking at a valuation of January 1st, the house was sold in January of the previous year. Let's say it's sold for $100,000 in January. Same unit sells in December for $150,000. That's not on us, that's on the building buyers. So we have to use what's closest to January 1st, but not what's closest to January of the prior year.
But I get it, but then the 150 should be the evaluation to everybody in the community.
It can be, but not always, because sometimes the 150 may be an end unit that sells different, or the two-car garage might sell different. So this cookie cutter doesn't mean the exact same all the time.
And I'm saying
So-
150 for a two-car should be the same as the one right next door.
Well, maybe sometimes, and sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. It just depends on how the builder's selling. So we have to look at how the builder's selling, and that can tend to skew them sometimes as well.
One more thing, we're just trying to get clarification because everyone's been looking at those last two numbers. And so when I received it, I thought, just old-fashioned math, just add it to them, that should be about what it is. Are you telling me that this bill that I'll get later on in the year will actually be higher than this estimate?
Possibly, I don't know. I can't say, I don't know, the mill rate clearly issue. School board hadn't set the mill rate, county hadn't set the cities hadn't set that data. So since the mill rate is not set yet, I can't tell you what the bill's going to be. They might lower the mill rate, the bill's lower.
So will there be additional line items to this? Is that what you're saying?
The school has a bond that you have to pay.
Do they, is it every year that the millage rate changes? Yes.
Yes. It's set every year. By state law, it has to be set every year.
So that's,
And reset every year, I guess you should.
Yes, sir. In terms of the appeals process, why don't we wait and stretch the appeals process out until after the millage rate has been set? It's like we're doing this backwards. I
can somewhat answer your question, but you're not going to like the answer. The answer is this: you can't set, it's difficult to set a millage rate if you don't know exactly what your digest is, because you have to set the budget, match it with the digest, and that's where your millage rate comes from. So if your millage rate is constantly in flux, because, your digest is constantly in flux because people are constantly appealing and whatnot, then the millage rate cannot be accurate. So your tax, they might be short, they might be too high. You don't want to pay more than you should pay, right? So you try to get it done after the appeal fairly set. That's why I say you might not like the answer, but I'll give you that. Any other questions? Last one. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Normally, you want your property value to go down because you don't want to pay high taxes, but I have a call from a young lady, and this is a real life case. Her house was valued at $559,000, and this year when she got her evaluation, it was $489,000. And she hadn't, there was nothing wrong with it, no damages. And it said reason neighborhood reevaluation. So it's a two-part question. So when Mr. Walker comes up, maybe he can explain. So if her house went down approximately $70,000 in value, and there's a house in that same neighborhood just sold for $750,000, but it's a new, just been built at the end of the neighborhood. So, Mr. Walker, when you get up, I want to know, will that automatically change the sale value if she decides she wants to sell, or should she just be happy that her value went down and take the tax break and go forward? So it's kind of a combination.
You push that down, I'm gonna let you crazy talk.
Oh, that's a market question.
But to answer your question, the market fluctuates, and the market fluctuates daily. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
So people, and it's what someone's willing to pay at any given time. So if you look at the sales that happened last year, they may have been low. People were maybe had been more nervous last year. Interest rates may have been high, and eventually, as the interest rates go up, values tend to go down. Interest rates go down, values tend to go up. Stability in the market is the answer to that question, which creates that influx. So to answer your question, we look at sales that happened the previous year. So we look at January 1st to December 31st, and so after that we stop looking for that valuation date of January 1st of the current year. So if something happened in June, that sale will be taken into consideration the following year. And sales do that. Yes, ma'am.
Can you give us an example of once you get the appeal and you're deciding on whether to grant it or deny it, what are some of the things that make you grant it and some of the things that make you deny an appeal?
Well, we don't deny any appeal unless it's late. So we grant you the right to have it, to file your appeal. Now, as far as will we change it or no change it?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
We look at sales in the neighborhood. We send an appraiser out, look at your house again, make sure that this is what we have is what we have. And if we see that it looks right, then we don't change it. However, when it's not changed, if we do a no change and don't change it at all, we automatically send it to the Board of Equalization. And you have a right to defend why you believe the value should be lower or higher, whichever one you believe, at the Board of Equalization.
Okay.
One more question.
When you file an appeal and everything, and you get blocked in for like 3 years, that's the way I read this letter. But y'all opted out of that deal.
We did not out of that. That was the state said that when you opt in or out, they had to do opting in or out. The only thing you opted out of was the public homestead.
But that was my question. So if they don't change your appeal, then you don't get froze for 3 years.
Correct. That's new. That was part of the thing that we voted on.
That's what I was trying to
And
figure out.
that was the thing we voted on was Douglas County opt in or out. That was the eight things that was talked about outside the floating homestead. There was no opt in or out of those things. Those were part of the bill no matter what. And you're right. I did mention. I didn't say that. And I probably should have. One of the new changes in 581 is if your value is not changed at the Board of Equalization, and I say changed, I mean lowered. If they raise it, then no. If they don't lower your value, you do not get a 3-year freeze. Current year plus 2 is actually what it should be. But so that's a change based on the law, and there's another change based on the law, which was if you bought a house and you paid $500,000 for it, the maximum we can value it for is $500,000. That's also done. So if you value a house at $500,000, if you bought it $500,000, your neighbor bought $510,000, the value might go up to $510,000. So that's no longer the case any longer because those things were actually skewing the audit that the state does. So it was causing the state to have issues and the counties to not be able to properly collect on public utilities. So they took that out as well, so we could actually collect better on our public utilities. which helps the citizens because that's kind of, for lack of a better term, free money, because it helps to bring down your assessment. I mean, not your assessment, your business rates.
We'll take a couple more questions and then he'll talk on that. Y'all gotta go to his office.
Anybody needs any, have anybody have any further questions?
Do you have any more questions?
Come to my office tomorrow, I'm at 6200 Fairburn Road.
Second floor. He may be willing to hang around and answer some more complicated questions. Okay, so here's where we are. You got your bill, and you disagreed with your taxes. You thought they were too high, so you went to the tax assessors. They turned you down. So now you can go to the Board of Equalization, but you gotta file the appeal, and then you go to the Board of Equalization. So now we're gonna bring up Mr. Joe Douglas, our chairman of the Board of Equalization, and he's gonna give you some insight on how that process works.
Okay, and you can appeal that. And if you think that's the case, I urge you to appeal it for no other reason than education. I'm telling you, you can do this, and it's kind of fun because you get to learn exactly how to do it, and you can watch it from here on out for the rest of your life. You can appeal for the rest of your life, okay? And you can tell all your friends and neighbors how to do it, or at least the process, okay? So, I'm gonna zip through this portion. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. I'm gonna zip through this portion. Why would you appeal? The FMV is just too high, or to establish homestead exemption. Okay, if you don't have it, you can appeal for that. Now, if you signed up, and I'm pointing to you because if you're a brand new house homeowner, you've got to fill out the proper forms by the proper time. I can't help you if you file late. You with me? I argue with real estate agents, brokers, and attorneys because they don't tell you to go file your homestead exemption. You should know. I think it's a fiduciary responsibility for people in real estate to tell you, go file your homestead exemption. Okay? Go do that. Tell all your friends and neighbors. Oftentimes, don't we? She's shaking her head. There's some BOE members in here that they come in and they don't even know that they're qualified for homestead exemptions. So tell all your friends and neighbors, you're going to get you've already gotten your assessment. Everybody, yes. You can appeal within 45 days, and I'm going to show you in just a minute how you can do it online, or you can do it in person. I prefer in person. Joe prefers in person because I'm old, and I write out things, and I can hand it to this human being on the other side of the glass, and they stamp it, and I get a copy of it. You see what I mean? There's no confusion. On a rare occasion, we have had people that swear they have signed up online, and there's no paperwork. It just doesn't show up. So you may request supporting information. That goes both ways. You can ask the county, can you show me, and look, they're human beings. They're not your enemy. And by the way, the appraisal department that we have in this county, he said they're appraising 56,000 properties a year, okay? And with what they have to work with, they do a good job, okay? So it's not, us versus them. It's about equity. It's about being proper, all right, and being reasonable. And you're going to have to be reasonable, and they're going to have to be reasonable. And if that's out of skew, you come see us, and then we're going to rule on that. Okay, think of this as a trial. You have to bring evidence. The county's certainly going to bring evidence. And believe me, they know what they're doing. Because why? Because they do this all day, every day. You, on the other hand, may not be doing this all day, every day. So let me show you a few key portions so that you can utilize this. You need to be able to gather information that you can utilize at this hearing. Submit that tax. You need to submit your evidence to the county. So let's say he comes up with some sales in his neighborhood that are lower than the fair market value the county's assigned. Let's just say that's the case. He's got a good case. When he sends that information to the assessor's office, they can go, okay, we didn't know about this. They are relatively human people, okay? They can make a mistake. So, and they will. They're going to go, okay, we didn't know about this. We didn't know about a specific neighborhood situation, which we ran into last season. It was an entire neighborhood with a major problem with the buildings, okay? And when we learned about it, we the board, started pulling all of that down because we had learned, okay? But the county didn't. It wasn't an issue when the county went out and appraised those properties. You with me?
Yes.
So information is key here. So you need to submit your information 10 days prior to the hearing. Why? For two reasons. One, so they can look at it and go, we didn't know that, we'll fix it, okay? Or two, they can say, we're going to stick with what we've got. This evidence does not help your cause, okay? They're going to look at it both ways, and then you can submit that, and then you're going to have a Board of Equalization. There's a couple of other folks that can listen to this appeal. One's called a hearing officer, and another one's called a judge, okay? So, evidence. In your evidence, you need sales of similar, preferably duplicate properties. Don't do apples and oranges, y'all. If your house has a basement, don't be grabbing up sales with no basement. No, we know that. They know that. We know that. Okay, so don't be cheap, because you're going to get caught. And the same, I jump on some of those guys too. They'll slip in an orange every now and then too. Okay, so I mean it works both ways. Look, use county information. I'm going to show you how to get to that in a minute. Use county information, FMLS, MLS, closed sales, not listings. Not listings. We're going to throw them out. Not listings. A listing is not a sale price. A listing is not a sale price. We go by what it's sold for, not what you want for it. Okay? So, look here. Not. See that? Capitalized. Not. Zillow, Redfin, Trula, We Buy Ugly Houses. None of that. Those are averages. Okay? Those are statistical models. They are not sale prices. So too many people, I heard Zillow back there, too many people bring in these printouts. Well, Zillow says, Zillow's junk. Most of the time. Every now, Hog finds an acre and every now and then on Zillow. Every now and then it's correct, but it's garbage in, garbage out. So don't use those. We're not even going to, if you bring that in, we're just going to roll our eyes and go, proof, and I'm going to talk about uniform. We haven't talked about uniformity. Uniformity is whereby if it's the same house, all of them should be roughly the same in fair market value. Every now and then one gets skipped, one way or the other. If it's below, you need to keep your mouth shut. Other information may be rental rates, And by the way, I hope that the county's moving more and more towards income approach, because I read a survey the other day, half of this county rents. Rents.
And increase.
So, guess what? We've talked about this, and they're moving in that direction, the county's moving in that direction. If you've got, look, they're not gonna go inside the house, and if something happened to your house, like damage, lightning strike, fire, whatever, and all that kind of thing, you gotta, bring the pictures. Sometimes, they're probably gonna catch that before it comes to a hearing, right? If you choose to get a representative, like me, an attorney, a real estate agent, somebody, there are professionals that do this for you, by the way, okay? For a small fee, right? They must be registered when you appeal. Just do it when you appeal, because if you don't, then we're going to say, well, we don't know who you are. You're representing who? What? We have to have documentation. You can't just come walking in there and say, I decided to do this for my neighbor. Who can appeal? Anybody that pays property taxes. Oh, this also includes personal property. Homestead exemption, I already talked about that. They've already talked about mass versus fee. Mass appraisers, that's those guys. They do a great job. Can you imagine appraising 56,000 properties in a year? Okay, so I think they do a pretty good job. A fee appraiser is somebody like me, or a real estate appraiser. We're zeroing in on your house. They're zeroing in on areas, entire neighborhood, right? They ain't got time to go walk to everything, right? We zero in on your specific house. So the BOE, the Board of Assessors, will review. They'll amend if necessary. If they say, oh, we didn't see that, they'll amend it. Or if they say, nah, we good, then they're going to come to the BOE, the Board of Equalization. If there's no change, a hearing is scheduled, a hearing is held. It's downstairs, by the way. It's here in this building. It's down in the basement down there. And after the appeal, let's say you don't like what we came up with. We decided, we're going to go with the county on this. Sorry. If you don't like it, you can appeal. You can still appeal. Okay. You can appeal beyond that to the Superior Court. Okay. So it doesn't end with us. We're not the end all. Hearing officer is a little different ball game. It's for, is it 50,000? It's 500,000. I'm sorry, I put $1 million in there. It's for non-homestead properties. This is usually for commercial property. Okay. Independent of fee appraisal. That's for arbitration. That's where the judge gets involved. Okay. So these are the three avenues, if you will, for an appeal. There's a flow chart that used to be in here. We don't have a copy of that. You can't read that. These are some resources. You might want to take a picture of that. And in fact, we'll just go to the appraisal. See this Schneider Court? See that right there? Yeah. Don't let that scare you. The state uses Schneider Court for managing the websites, right?
No, yes.
The Q Public. Yeah. So what you're going to see is Q Public here. I'm about to pull that up. So if you see the word Schneider, that's not, that's who the state uses, okay? And we're going to look up a site here. Let me do, I'm going to do this first, and then I'll show you literally. Let me do this part first. Here's the field sample. Here's a house that I did. It's a little dated, so it's back in 22, okay? The subject had a 22 assessment value of $389,500, okay? In the appraisal world, we use price per square foot. I don't have anything to write with. Price, backside. Price per square foot. I still need a mark. Oh, thank you. So we use, and you need to use, dollars per square foot. Okay.
Okay? We use, that is the unit of comparison in real estate. Dollars per square foot. If it's land, it's dollars per acre. Okay? If you're arguing your land value, it needs to be dollars per acre. You with me? That's so you take the sale price and divide it by the square foot of the building. There's your price per foot. That's our unit of comparison. Same with land. We use acres in the United States, and the rest of the world is hectares. Yes?
So per square feet, do you include unfinished space in that equation?
No. Because, and that's an excellent question, because MLS and a lot of agents, not this one, but a lot of agents incorporate that finished square feet in the total. No, it has to be grade up.
And how is finished space defined? Like, is there like a definition to that? Like, has to be heat, has to be heated, has to be insulated?
Heat and cool, finished, and all the rest. Right. Okay. And it adds value. I'm not saying it doesn't add value, but in the square footage, and this goes with the county too, it's grade up. Okay. And that's a really problem, because he knows what I'm talking about. They're saying the house is 3,700 square feet. Oh, but 1,500 of it's below grade. You see what I'm... So, we have an assessed value. The county says it's 3389.5. It's a 1,849 foot building. If you divide that out, it's $210 a foot. That's what the county says it's worth. I found 3 sales. I'm gonna go through this quickly. I found 3 sales. Notice, it's the house was built in 2005, and it's a 5-acre lot. All right. I found 3 sales. Address on Kilroy, Lambert Brewer. This is the sale date. Notice that it's the same year as the assessment, or 1 year shy. It needs to be as close to January 1 as possible. Can you go into February of the next year, or March of the next year? Within reason. The answer is yes. He's going to argue with me and say no. The answer is yes. We'll listen to that. Okay? So look, I picked some similar properties. Look, similar age, similar lot size, home square feet is roughly the same. See, apples for apples, right? And look at my price per foot. Look at my price per foot, and I took the average of that, and look how that 186 compares to the county. 210. You see, it's less. This doesn't happen every time. Your results may vary. Okay? So, if I take that 186 times the square feet, I come up with a value of 344, not 389. You with me? Now, uniformity is what she's arguing. Uniformity. You can argue uniformity just like you can argue sales. Doesn't matter to us. Uniformity is constitutional. Uniformity is law. So, on the order of what's really true, uniformity comes first, right?
Yes, not true. Uniformity is not the exact number.
It just so happened that I took those same sales, and I looked at what the county had it assessed for. Look, these numbers are different because they're the assessed value. They're the assessed value, not the sale price. All that's the same. All that's the same. Look, 191 versus the 210. So the suggestion is, somewhere in between, 350, whatever.
But Joe, that's the uniform that I told you before.
Sir?
That's your uniform because you have a 10% deviation.
It's within that 10%, isn't it? Right? That's his, so, and I'm being fair, and to be fair, that's right, they're still within, okay, they're not super out. I just threw it back in there because it's pretty good evidence that it might be a little high. And it's not even that much high, but think about it this way. That 389 to 350, let me do that math, right, $30-something thousand times a 40% assessment, that's roughly a $500 savings on the tax bill. For how long?
3 years.
So is it 500? 1,500. With me? Because if he lowers it, I can lock it in for 3 years. This year and 2 more years. If it's lower.
Hey, you not about lower, you lower.
Well, the BOE lowered. Now, the BOE, stop. The BOE lowered it. They can appeal too.
We fight.
You with me? They can appeal. You see?
Yeah.
So if they say, no, wait a minute. Okay, so this works both ways. Yes?
I've heard this year that if the BOE does not change the value or reduce it, what happens? You do not get it locked in.
See you next year. All right. All right, so let's say, all right, how do we do this? And I'm gonna literally go through how I would find. So here's Douglas County. What would it be under? Government?
Scroll to the bottom.
Scroll to the bottom. I've got it automatically on my computer, so I just don't.
All the way to the bottom.
Right, okay. Property.
In the middle.
See it right there, appraisal department. Y'all see that?
Yeah.
So I went, what did I go to? Douglas County Celebrate? No, I went to Douglas County, Georgia.gov. You see that? And then I'll go look here at the bottom, I go to appraisal department. See that? All right, look at here. Special programs, homestead, look, property search. Yay, that's what we're looking for. Hit that. Schneider, see that Schneider? I don't know why they're doing this now. All right. What's your address? Yeah.
9765.
What?
9765, Lakemore Code.
Look at there. Look, y'all. Lakemore Code. See there? Watch this. Booyah! You give me the address. I can pull this up. Because there's one on every property in the county, y'all. This isn't. Look, this is Google World. We know everything about you now. Okay? So there it is. I happen to know where this is. This is right up the road from my house. And the important, and look, what does that say? You just hit that and do that. If you like, if you want to do it online, Joe is going to do it
In person.
up there in Fairburn Road. Okay? I do this professionally also because I want that human being to stamp that piece of paper to say, so just because I'm old and I don't trust this stuff. Okay?
But Jim, you get the email when you finish, and you get all your documents.
Parcel number, very important. I go by parcel number more than I go by address. Seriously, your parcel number is unique to you. Your address is supposed to be unique to you, okay? Look at this information. There's a house, it's lot number 39, the Lakemore West Lakes. Look at here, we go down through it. Homestead, look at there. They got their homestead, okay? So you can look all this stuff up, and then watch this. Watch this. Hold my beer and watch this. Look at here. Look at here. You see that right there? You want to see where her property is? Come on, let's look.
Oh, yeah.
So there it is. Isn't that cool? And then you can just zoom out. Y'all can play with this. You know, we can zoom out and see exactly where she lives. We can go by there later. She's certainly... She's on the BOE, by the way, y'all. Okay? Now look, see there, Carroll County, so we can see that this is in the western part of the county. Okay, isn't that cool? You can see exactly where this property is. By the way, that black line, I think, means city limits. I think that's what it's doing. All right, so I'm gonna back up.
But can you filter out a list of sales on there without having to go through each individual?
Why? I'm not done.
Okay.
I'm gonna go down through here, see who the property owner is, all the rest. Look at this information about the house. 2,100 feet, it's stucco, built in 2003. So there's all your information, okay, about your house. But if you want to know like specifics, like square footage, and by the way, they measure houses and they're pretty darn good at it, okay? Look down here. Ooh. It transferred, but look at the price. 0. So it was just a deed transfer of some kind, right? That's gonna pop up on this sales list here in just a minute, because all that, they're just listing every time there's a deed transfer. Which reminds me, if you transfer a deed, you double check and make sure your homestead is still in place.
That's true.
Mama dies.
Yep.
And daddy hadn't paid the taxes or anything because mama does it all the time and mama's been taking care of the books and everything. And daddy's standing there and all of a sudden the property values stayed the same, but the taxes jumped up because they lost their homestead school exemption.
That's right.
I don't know why Douglas County does this. It's not very common in other counties, okay? But it happens. A divorce, a death, anytime that deed transfers, you need to double check and make sure your homestead is still in place. Okay? It's a matter of filling it out. Yeah.
2025, if a husband dies, wife gets the property, she gets to keep her home.
She gets to keep it.
Don't have to.
Great.
As of 2025.
That's your
Wife died, husband.
What did you say?
As of 2025, if the spouse dies, you automatically get to keep your home.
Now,
if your mother dies, then you don't get to keep your home.
Go file your homestead if there's any deed change. To answer your question, so I can finish up here so we can hear. Look, what does that say? Sales by what? Neighborhood. It's right there in front of you, so if I bump that, if I hit that, watch. What's this? Spreadsheet City. Look, now, we want sales. Look, nothing's happened in there since 2022, so these sales are too old for today. You with me? So what does that tell you? That tells me it's a stable neighborhood. It's a good, stable neighborhood. So that means we're going to have to expand our information. So watch this. Look at this. What does this say right here? Distance, units, search by distance. So I'm going to back that up and say sales within 1 mile. What's this? Oh yeah! Alright, and I got a whole list here. So, this is where you can start pulling out sales. But remember, they need to be the same, similar age, within 2 or 3 years, similar square feet, within within 10, 15% reasonable. If yours has a basement, you need to find a sale with a basement. We spot all this stuff. It's got to be apples for apples, okay? And if you can come up with enough evidence to say, appraisal department, you're wrong, we will hear that, okay? Conversely, if you come in with a bunch of Zillow junk, we're going to say, we're going to the county on this one. Okay?
So do you have how far of a radius can you go?
You can go out the whole county. Let me tell you why. If you've got a unique property, and there's some unique property, there's some $1 million palaces in this county. What's his name, football player? Down on 166, there's some, okay, so, and then the more you need, the greater the expansion. Yeah. Yeah, Cam Newton.
So it has to be for this sales from January 1st?
As close as possible, as close to that assessment as possible. Remember he said earlier, they're gonna skew those, they're gonna look at those sales closer to December 31st, right? So if you're in that December, fall of that year, that's better. And if you bleed over into the new year a little bit, we're gonna listen to that too.
Like February, March.
Okay? Now, if you've got sales that are just stupid, where 500, 750, now, we're chunking the stupid. Because look, P.T. Barnum said, there's one born every minute, right? And some people pay stupid for everything, right? Conversely, I just learned that if that value, if it's a buddy deal, they can still go with the market. If it's a buddy deal, you just, yeah, I really like her, I'm gonna cut her a deal on this house. Wait a minute now. Let's go with them. We're going with the market. The BOE's going with the market, they're going with the market. Okay? The outliers, yeah, they're not gonna have that much influence. All right? We need to get him in here.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I'll hang around if you have some questions, and let's get him in here.
Okay, all right, so now you've heard from the BOE Board of Equalization, and they have raised your property value. And now you want to sell your house. So what you do now? Come on down.
My name is Kevin Walker. I've been a real estate agent and broker. I've had my license about 13 years, broker about 10. I've been with Maximum One Realty for a very long time. I was actually, when we had the office out here, I was one of the team leads there. First, I just want to congratulate everybody for home ownership. It's very important, and I can't remember who said this here. Our county has a very high amount of rental. Not advocating for or against or just anything, but the dynamics of neighborhoods are shifting. Companies are coming in, they're buying up houses, and as you see that can change. Congratulations on me.
Get calls every day.
One thing, I didn't know how this was going to go, so I just want to, especially because it sounds like there's some new home buyers in here. And one thing too, I'm here learning how to do appeals. I own multiple properties in Douglasville. I'm not here to listen to business. I think even if we met here, I don't think it's even really a good thing to probably work together. I'm here as a Douglas County citizen myself. But your property, have you ever heard the term PITI? Your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and then if you guys, let's say you live in Chapel Hill or Villa Rica, your homeowner's insurance may or may not be in your escrow. So that the principal and interest, that's the part. That's not going to, if you have a fixed income, a fixed rate mortgage, that's not going to change. That value is going to stay the same. Now that taxes, insurance, HOA, your HOA more than likely isn't going up, but you file a claim or something on your house, get that roof fixed, or you had a flood, maybe your insurance goes up. When that escrow comes in, and I believe someone else said that we as agents, there is a fiduciary responsibility to remind you when you close, you need to go and file homestead. We tell you that's on you to do it. And there's many ways where it sounds like homestead can change in our county. You go through a divorce, if something happens, if you quit claim deed, some of these things happen. But you also need to be aware when your taxes change, your payment will change. And I know you want to call and yell at the mortgage company, but the mortgage company don't care. Their part is the same. It's the same, and that's what more than likely when you sign for your house, that's the principal and interest part. Based on your interest rate, that's gonna stay the same. But now if your taxes go up, now you might be looking at $200 more a month, $300, whatever it might be. And I think that's why people are here and need to be learning how to go here and appeal that price. And just remember too, agents, I'm trying to get the value as high as possible, so when you list it, that's when you see you buy a fair market value. But if you're going to appeal, so we talk about one thing. Okay, so Mr. Douglas, he brought up a very good thing with Zillow. Estimates are trash. It can be valuable in some cases, but a lot of times you might go and look and he says your house is worth $500,000 or something crazy like that. And then you go talk to someone and they want to list it for much less. It is. It's just an algorithm that just takes numbers and plugs it in. That's all it is. We buy houses, Redfin, all of them. Don't trust that. That's like your first level. That's very, very, very untrustworthy way of valuing your house. And I think a lot of people, they get caught up with that because say it's really high, they start spending that money in their head when they want to go list their house. And it might not be worth that. One thing what I will say on Zillow, similar to on when you go through on the government side, on the Douglas County side, you can see the properties around you. Take those addresses. You can put that address in the Zillow. You can go and you can look at that house. And if in the search, look at solds. You look at solds. And so now take the information that you were just given. You need to find houses that sold as close as possible to the first of the year. You might find a house that, like I said, is an outlier, that maybe it is. Maybe it's sold for much less. It's the same, very similar house, and it's sold in the middle of the year. Versus maybe it's sold in February. I'm not exactly sure how they take that, but take the information that they're giving you right now. This is probably one of the worst real estate months in a very long time. And I just want to tell you if you look at the total active houses on the market right now, it's roughly about 900 or so in Douglas County. New listings, 300. This is all in May. And you had about 148 sales. If you go back to 2022, and I thought this was very interesting. So during that time, the 1 month, the May of 25 versus May of 22. In May of 22, there were only 450 houses on the market. So that's half. But the amount of new listings, it was kind of similar. It was close. And I'm explaining why. But the number of houses that sold during that time, it was 216. So roughly of the 455 houses that were on the market, 216 of them sold. Right now there's 900, this is all in May. There was 148 sales. So if you look at year over year, the past, if you go from 22, 23, 24, 25, maybe this is an outlier, there's a lot of things that were going on in March and April, but the numbers are the numbers. I'm not here to make any judgments, that's what happened. There were a total of 914 houses on the market, 148 of them sold, versus 3 years ago where it was 455 versus 216. So this is all straight from Georgia MLS data.
That because of the economy
Well, 22 was COVID. Actually, let me even give you 24, because actually that's even better. If you look at 24, there were 754 versus 163. So right now, the last big piece of information I wanted to give, just as property owners, that you should be aware of, that the days on market, the time that house sits on the market once they list it, around this time last year and pretty consistently the last few years, it's been edging up. But right now, you're looking at roughly about 70 days on market, which is much higher than what we're used to. This time last year it was low 50s, high 40s, low 50s. So just to be aware and understand what's going on in the market. And then this last little piece here, this is straight from Georgia MLS over from 1/1 to 6/12 of 24 versus 1/1/2025 to 6/12. So yesterday, so first 6 months, 5.5, 6 months of the year, 24 versus last year. 24 versus this year. The number of properties sold is down 10%. The average price is roughly about the same, which make that, see how in your mind, we're expecting the houses to, but really they're actually down a little bit less, 0.2%. And then during that time, the average sales price is a little bit less in 25 than it was in 24. So that's just raw numbers, right from the MLS. You can, a lot of this information, you can actually pull some of this information on your Zillows, on your Redfins. Don't look at the Zestimate, but you can actually, similar to on the state site, on the county site, you can click on a property, you can see when it's sold, and then when you, like I said, you're pulling your comps. Just like if you're selling your house, you can't use a comp from 2022 or 2021 or 2023, which is a year where houses were flying off the market, and that was really the peak when people were overpaying. Well, people were paying more than asking price. So really understand value, and I can't remember who said what fair market value is. From the real estate side, the real market value is what someone will pay for it, and also what a bank, when they do an appraisal, what they will lend you. So you have to balance that out. It's not your estimate, it's not what your cousin thinks because he saw some other houses in Michigan that are selling for or whatever. That's not what it is. But overall, good luck to you guys.
I have a question.
Yes. You may not have looked into this, but are you seeing the same drastic difference in surrounding counties? Is this Douglas, I know Douglas County is not that special, but are we seeing this in Cobb and Fulton and Carroll?
And like I said, with Atlanta, even if people say you've been here less than 10 years, Douglas County is not Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like we're totally different, it's totally different. So when I looked at Fulton, when I looked at Atlanta, the numbers are down. It was a little bit more here, but the numbers, I think when you look at it across the metro.
Like say you compare us to Paulding or Carroll.
Yeah, Paulding or Carroll. I think when I was looking at, say, you start, especially when you get out like 30187 and you start going out, you start to compare it to parts of Carroll, parts of Dillard, you know, it looks very similar. Another thing too is price point. Right now, which is interesting, your price points, which I think here would be in your upper levels, above 500, going into those numbers, that market is actually moving a little bit. It's moving pretty well, and prices are almost rising in that area. So I think, like I said, it's very specific. I heard you mention new housing. I would even look at some of the newer houses that are being built compared here, like in the Smyrna area, really to Powder Springs area, where they're building a lot of new houses, because they're just starting to build a lot more new houses out here. Or some of those areas, they've had some newer houses, new builds going on for a while. That would be my suggestion, if you're just trying to glean, so kind of see what's going on. And especially look at the incentives that some of these builders are offering. Some builders are offering some great incentives. So, like I said, it's really becoming more of a buyer's market, but you never go wrong on property. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, questions?
Shakes and it bends, don't give a damn. When the night's here, I don't do tears, baby, no chance. I could dance, I could dance, I could dance. Watch me.